Join our knowledgeable hosts as they dive into the captivating universe of comic books, movies, TV shows, and pop culture. Get ready for vibrant discussions and a shared enthusiasm for all things superhero and beyond. A comic podcast straight from the panels. This is Beyond the Capes.
All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Cape podcast. With us today is returning member Daniel and the other half to Space Chimps Comics, John. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us. Yeah.
We're happy to have you both now. Last time, obviously, Daniel was on the show. We got to hear a lot of the origin story, how we came to be. John, how do you... If you had to maybe sum up how this came to be, how you got started in this conversation with him and making what you have today.
Sure. So a few years ago, Ryan, I was, I'm a writer. I'm a, journalist, and I've also published, several books, and including some, like nonfiction and fiction. But I've always loved comic books, and so I was thinking of writing a like sword and sorcery, fantasy sort of epic. Tale. And at the same time, Dan's working on issue 1 of Tales from Toxic Pond, which is our flagship, like title. And he sent it to me, and I couldn't believe how great it was and how it looked. And so it really inspired me. And I had forgotten about Toxic Pond. We used to go fishing there in Fishkill, New York, at this pond with this like pipe leading into it that we just joked had to be toxic because of this pond, because of this pipe, And so I thought, man, it'd be great to just combine and start a company and have this be like a horror sci-fi, fantasy anthology, sort of like Twilight Zone, or like Tales from the Crypt and things like that. And that's how it just all came to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's perfect. I mean, we were talking off air. Like I said, you guys obviously have a passion for comic books. I mean, your whole walls are covered with them, which is always a good sign, generally, when you see people that they're into it. And I know we talked to Daniel a little bit about this. It's great when people want to do single issues and run a single story. I'm all for it. I love it when people have just a concrete idea. I do, however, really like anthologies. And I think me and Daniel touched a little bit about this. You have so many opportunities to tell so many short stories. And you could always go back if you really felt connected to a short story. And then from there, use your flagship title to make branches and kind of grow your library. For you guys, I'm assuming that there's definitely some give and take to that as you've been putting out these books.
Yeah. Well, I will start here first, Dan, but absolutely. So we have, one sort of recurring, character who's like a narrator, and we have a like demon sort of swamp creature that I call the left hand of justice almost, maybe, like vengeance or, whatever. And, but we have some other recurring characters, and we have stories written that we haven't yet produced that we hope to like spin off into other series as well. Right, Dan?
Yeah, I kind of envision it like the Marvel books back in the 70s. You had like characters, Marvel Premiere, Marvel Spotlight,
yes, Marvel.
They were kind of like jump off points for Shang-Chi or Iron Fist and these other characters to kind of test the water, see if people were interested in them before they got their own title. So we're kind of doing the same thing here. My dad has a really great superhero idea that should be in a Toxic Pond sometime in the near future. And hopefully we'll spin off into its own series from there.
Definitely. Now, before we get into the bread and butter of why we're here, biggest thing for everyone listening, this episode should be out right before it hits. If you are at MegaCon, Space Chimps Comics will be at MegaCon. How does that feel? I mean, you guys are doing your own independent stories. Like, you get that email, like your application was approved. You now have a table. And I would put MegaCon for the U.S. probably top 5 biggest conventions for the US.
Yeah, it's exciting, man. The con we did last year was small. It was like a 4 or 5 hour, Sunday afternoon con. Most people weren't there for comic books, but we did have some people stop by. We made our table feedback, so we were able to sell enough to kind of even out for the weekend. But MegaCon, I think they're expecting like 190,000 people over 4 days. So it's huge, man. We have a nice kind of end cap table over there in Artist Alley, A36. Come check us out. So we're excited. Hopefully we'll sell some books.
Nice. What are you guys both expecting? Because obviously I think a lot of us have been to the smaller cons. I know what to expect. I know there's going to be a lot of dollar issues. You might have one spotlight artist that maybe hasn't done work recently, but they have a very strong background in comics. And then, I go to like ours out here in Chicago is C2E2. I think we had 110,000 last on just a Saturday, just not the whole weekend, just one day. Do you guys have any expectations, or is there any kind of pros, cons? You're like, oh man, I'm nervous for this, but I'm really excited for this.
Well, I'm sort of just nervous and excited, but because we have gone to this con, many times as fans and comic book buyers. We've met artists there and like had them sign our books and all that, and it is just wall to wall people, and it's almost too much. You know what I mean? It's like almost overwhelming. And so, but now to be on the other side of that, I mean, I'm just so excited. I mean, look, I'm hoping for sales, obviously, but I just really want people to see our book and to just know us and to like talk to us and just find out a little bit about who we are.
Definitely. I mean, I always think one of the best things in our convention was when we first got our first press pass. Walking into that convention, you're gonna have that big pass that says exhibitor on it. To me, that's always one of the best moments because that feels like a change in like the whole shift of what you've been working for.
Yeah, for sure. Plus, you guys get Daniel Warren Johnson every year. He never comes down to MegaCon. So.
There are pros to that. Yes, Chicago and New York. It is nice being that close to it. For sure. Is there anything you guys learned maybe from the smaller con that you're hoping to kind of bring with you to this bigger con? How you approach maybe your setup, or maybe how you draw people in? Because I think that's always the biggest part for indie creators, especially. You don't have Marvel or DC putting kind of everything together for you. You're trying to figure out, how do I sell my story that I love to someone else that's not familiar?
Well, yeah, I will let Dan answer this, but I just wanted to say that he shot down my idea, which was I wanted to have a few chimps running around in astronaut outfits just to try to, like, what's that all about? Oh, that has to be Space Chimp Comics. You know what I mean? But
it's a good idea, but it's not good for the bottom line. So
low pricey.
Yeah, exactly. Rental chimps. Yeah. No, I think it's just a matter of trying to sell ourselves and trying to be proactive and drawing people, to our booth. Fortunately, we're going to be splitting the booth with a great artist friend of mine named Brian Wolf. He's going to be doing some sketch covers for us and stuff. So,
awesome.
Quick sketches, trying to draw people into the booth. And while we're there, we'll give them our spiel or elevator pitch and, try to take them, get them to go home with some of our books.
Yeah, that's always the goal. So obviously the reason we're here is you have another Kickstarter out. And this is Tales from the Toxic Pond. What issue?
4.
All right, 4. I mean, that's so I mean, that's fantastic. We're on 4. We got the Kickstarter going. I'm assuming for everyone that is going to MegaCon, I'm assuming there will be somewhat of an exclusive or early issues there.
Yeah. So we actually have 3 MegaCon exclusives, including an exclusive cover for issue 4. It's a foil tarot card cover by Gerald von Stoddard, an incredible artist. I think he just won some sort of award for Immortal Coil. We're going to have some exclusives for issues 1 and 2 as well. And then we have an ash can for our next title, The Cutting Room Floor, 12-page, sketch cover ash can coming out for that as well. So yeah, we have all types of fun stuff, man. Tarot cards, bookmarks, stickers, you name it.
Awesome.
I just have to say, Ryan, that Danny has done a great job. I'm his dad, by the way. I don't know if that's clear or not, because I look, really young, but
yeah, of course.
He's done a great job researching what works at cons, what doesn't. I'll bring up ideas, and he'll say, "No, I've already researched that," or "Yeah, Dad, we are doing that." And he has lots of little extras and exclusives and just really cool stuff at our table.
definitely. And I mean, that's, I think a lot of people for indie, the artist alley in the indie section. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is making a big enough splash to get someone to stay at your booth to even give you the time to pitch your story, which is incredibly difficult. And for everyone listening who just like stares and walks by, sometimes just give them a little bit of time. There's a lot of people. Let them give them a little bit of respect just to tell their story, because that's hard. And to do that, you're probably going to say that same pitch 40,000 times a day, roughly. I mean, that's being generous.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm sure.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to perfect it.
You're gonna be fine. So the big thing, and that's nice too with your Kickstarter, because obviously you can get people hooked on the story right there, keep them up to date with your information. We had the current Kickstarter. I'm assuming you're also going to provide the ability to get back issues while we're there, so you could catch people up if they really like number 4 or they buy number 4 at your booth to come back and maybe get 1, 2, and 3.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, we'll have issues 1 through 4 there. We'll have QR codes where you can purchase digitals on our website, Global Comics. The Kickstarter will still be live when we're at MegaCon. So if you only pick up issues 1 and 2 and you want to get issues 3 and 4, you have a way to do so there as well. So
perfect. So that brings us why we're here. Tales from the Toxic Pond, issue number 4. Was this, and how is this one different than your other 3? Was there a general theme to this specific volume? Or was this kind of, maybe we tried different stories that we didn't get the chance to do in the beginning because at that point, we were just trying to push out that initial book?
Yeah, well, like Dan's written issues 1 and 3, and I've written issues 2 and 4. And I think so far up until issue 4, it's been more a little bit psychological stuff, or maybe
cosmic horror.
It's right, or and I just wanted to write a straight, old-fashioned haunted house kind of horror story, and so it's actually called a birthday wish, and it's about a young married couple who just love to go to haunted houses and check them off their list.
Yeah,
and they enter this one, and it could be the wrong one or the right one, all depending on your perspective.
Perfect. Now, when you plan a book like this and you have a story like that, just hearing the general plot, I mean, you could give me 50 pages of that. I could think of exploring every room, the basement, the backstory. I mean, how do you, in a project like this, take a story, and it sounds like you have a very well fleshed out story, give us just enough to keep us hooked, but then also get your point across on something like that?
Yeah, well, the hardest part about writing is to write short, and luckily, I think that my experience as a journalist, sometimes you only have 600 words that are available to use to try to tell a story, and so I think that one of my strengths is I'm able to write short and concise and tell a lot in that period. So yeah, I mean, it's you could do a lot of stuff, and we also explore the origin of this haunted house and how it got that way, all in 24 beautiful pages.
Nice. So for this book, is that the main story, or is there another story to go with it?
No, it's just one story. Yeah.
One story. Okay. Now being a haunted house, and being that you've put out other issues and you both written different issues, is it tempting to make a room of this house and put little figures or little throwbacks to your other issue in like a weird eclectic part of this house?
That, man, shucks. That's a great idea. Damn it. Well, we actually have little nods to some of the other issues, I think, already in some of these. But no, in like this one, we have the our narrator Doc, who's in all 4 issues, I think. Yeah. And the monster or the spirit, whatever it is, the demon, that's he's very similar in all the issues, but not quite the same. But yeah, I wish we had done a little some little trinkets or something on the mantle that, right. Yeah, some other callback, like Easter eggs. Yeah.
Well, the nice thing is we'll get Tales from the Toxic Pond Volume 5, and then like the narrator can go back to his house and he just has a collection of all the totems he's taken from each story.
It's a
I'm
great
stealing
idea,
that.
actually. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're saving this clip and we're putting that one in the bank. So now that you have, now this is the big thing too for you guys, and I feel like a lot of indie creators, once you get to volume issue 4, this is where we start looking at maybe putting our stories in kind of like a trade paperback. Obviously, that's always a great one for cons. Giving someone like that one all-in-one book. Is there a desire to do that, or do you like the way right now of just kind of moving forward, kind of putting these kind of single issues out, and then maybe when you get a little bit more, making more of a compendium?
That's the plan. We have one more issue written and I think fully illustrated to kind of round out volume 1. It'll be 5 issues of volume 1. After that's hit Kickstarter, we're going to release the trade paperback, collecting the first 5 issues. So we'll do a soft cover and a hardcover of that.
Awesome. Now, John, for writing this in issue 4 too, I know you want to do a classic horror story. With horror and whatnot, is that something that you've always been interested in? Because as soon as you tell me Haunted Mansion, for me, it's definitely House on Haunted Hill, and then Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor. Those are like probably the big 3 that even Haunted Mansion from Disney would be my where I go to.
I'm a little bit older, so the Legend of Hell House. I don't know if you remember that movie.
I've heard this. I know the title.
Yeah, it scared the crap out of me when I was a kid. And then the sort of the whole Amicus feel of, and the whole English Hammer sort of feel of the haunted houses, and like that Gothic sort of style. I just loved, and also there was a film with Oliver Reed called Burnt Offerings.
Okay.
If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's creepy as heck, man. And it's about this family that enters this house, and the dad, he is changed by it, and he begins to do weird, bad things. And so, I've always loved horror. My dad loved horror. He, the best Christmas gift I ever got, Ryan, was when I was 12 years old. My dad got me the hardcover 5-volume Tales from the Crypt anthology, like the whole series, and I spent like 3 weeks off. I was in between. I was on like school break, obviously, just reading every single issue and every story. And I just love to be scared, and it's fun.
Oh, for sure. I can confirm I also have the collection of the EC Tales from the Crypt, along with the complete series on DVD. That took me forever to find.
Nice.
Always fantastic. Now, obviously, you're the main writer for this one, and I know Daniel said you guys do a lot of switching back and forth, where one writes an issue and kind of the other one supports the writing or proofreads it, or just tries to be that kind of that feedback. Daniel, how is your style in getting involved with this volume, working off of that story?
So I actually lettered the issue.
Awesome.
I lettered issue 4, so I've probably read it more than my father has at this point, to be honest with you. If I find myself bored at home, I'm in bed watching TV, I'll start lettering comic books, and I'll start relettering. So I've relettered this book probably 3 or 4 times now. Compiled the PDFs to send over to the printer to get the foil, con exclusive, and then just kind of editing and going from there, basically compiling all the covers, marketing, getting all of the supplemental materials. Like we did a VHS case for this one.
That's awesome.
And it came out looking really, really cool too. So we're gonna have that available on the Kickstarter also as an add-on. Tarot cards and all types of fun stuff like that, just to kind of accompany the issue and flesh it out a little bit.
And actually, Ryan, if I can add something, Dan has he's done such a great job with this, but he really has an eye for what the panels should show. Oh, here's the VCR case. Yeah, I mean, it's just beautiful. And so I'm actually working on a separate title now that will be out hopefully in the years to come. But I've asked him to sort of be the image editor, the panel editor. Yeah. I'll write it, but if he wants to change something and say, Dad, I think this has to be a splash page, or we got to have an insert panel here, he has carte blanche because he knows what he's doing with that.
Yeah, I mean, that's always That's always the tough part too, and it's always crazy when you start this company. You realize that you've become kind of the editor, or you become the go-to person for this or that. Putting panels together is it's a tough job. As we lost the one influencer this year, Comics Will Break Your Heart. That was a true statement that she put out. I mean, it's a rough industry, especially when you tell me that you're going to do lettering for fun. I don't think I've ever heard that in the comic book industry. Not even once have I heard anyone utter such a statement. How is that experience? Because that a lot of people don't realize that will make or break a comic book. If you have a birthday wish and you give me pink Times New Roman font, you just ruined that story. It's a very critical piece that people overlook.
No, for sure, man. It's fun in a way, but it's also kind of challenging trying to find, that right font that kind of fits the story. When to use, sound effects, when to have a character shouting and show something in bold, what types of bubbles we're going to use here. It's challenging, but it's honestly, it's the first thing that I look at now when I'm reading a comic book. I've trained my brain to just kind of immediately gravitate to the lettering, because you're right, it can totally make or break a story. If you're reading it and the bubbles are in the wrong spot, you don't know which characters you're talking. It's really distracting. So I'm trying my best to convey the story easily through the lettering, that way people aren't distracted and confused as to what's going on.
Definitely. Now for both of you guys, obviously you have a lot of Kickstarter add-ons. We have beautiful covers. We got the tarot cover. We got tarot card. We got everything. How do you guys decide on a general theme for doing your Kickstarters, or trying to pick, this maybe last Kickstarter we did cosmic horror, and we did more of, a Cthulhu type vibe with our add-ons and our stretch goals. And, this time we're doing more supernatural, the tarot, kind of otherworldly. How does it come down to I just think this story fits this vibe best?
I think we sort of just let the story dictate it, Ryan. Like issue 3, which like Dan wrote, was about a singing duo, and so he had music written for it. He has a vinyl record for it, album covers, and so that was the whole theme. And for this one, we associate, he and I, horror movies with haunted houses, or vice versa, haunted houses with horror movies. And so the VCR tape, holder. And a lot of the little add-ons were just haunted horror movie, based, right, Dan? Is that?
Yeah, no, for sure. Just kind of whatever the issue or the story dictates. For me, this story was very reminiscent of 70s, 80s, cheesy English amicus horror films. And to me, the first image that I think of is an old kind of ratted VHS tape. So it was kind of a no-brainer to design something like that and have some art commissioned and throw those up there on the Kickstarter. Yeah.
I mean, it turned out well. So again, we have issue 4. It's obviously going to be on the Kickstarter. Being that, again, we put out 4 volumes, which, for most people, just putting out 1 volume can take almost a lifetime, and that might be the end of it. You guys have now put out 4. It sounds like you already got some of the next book kind of in the pipes, ready to go. Being that this is your first big con coming up, we got 4 volumes, fifth story on the way. Where do you see this going? Where would you like it to go, especially in these next few years?
Pops, you want to take this one?
Yeah, well, I'm sort of. I've already said this numerous times, and it's out there in the universe. I envision this as a Netflix, series. Dan and I, we obviously we love horror, and so I remember it was Christmas a few years ago, and we found this Christmas horror anthology, movie that was just really, really bad, and the stories were just so bad. I'm like, God, our stories would make so much better, episodes or of this anthology movie. So I mean that's my ultimate dream. But no, look, we just want to keep growing the company. Add more titles. He has a title that he's working on that he has an ash can for this MegaCon, all set to go. I'm working on 2 other titles simultaneously. and we have 2 or 3 other issues of Toxic Pond already, written, and just waiting in the pipeline.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I think for sure, and I think a lot of people, when you tell people like, oh, I want this to be a Netflix show. Before it used to be all you could look at someone and be like, all right, seriously, this isn't going to be on CBS, ABC. Now that technology has changed, even if they don't do a live action, I feel like stories like this too could really lend itself, because animation has come such a far way, and you can make something that is spooky or to a horror theme and really nail the emotions of it with animation. Is that something that you guys, I mean, obviously the end goal is just to see it on a screen. But if someone sat down and said, you know what, we're making it, but you have a choice, live action or animation. And obviously we know the drawbacks and pros and cons to each one. Do you guys both have a same preference, or do you think maybe you have a different preference?
I just want to tell good stories, whether it's through live action or claymation or puppet animation. I really don't care.
Puppet animation would be the best
that would be
thing ever.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's really just about the our stories, Ryan, and just you write a story because you want people to enjoy it and to like share it. And so whatever the medium is, if it's an old fashioned radio show, if it's just whatever, a like stage play. I mean, I just want people to get exposed to it, and because we think they'll like it.
Definitely. Which also, again, another Kickstarter. If you guys ever made a cassette tape with an old time reading of like an alien invasion, perfect Kickstarter add-on. We're gonna mark this episode. Yeah, we're gonna mark this episode as this idea.
We're gonna have to put him on the payroll or something. I mean,
seriously, we'll have our guy, reach out to your guy.
Perfect. For hire. Now, obviously, with Dan on the last show, we talked about how this process worked, and he went to the ins and outs, and how it was great working with his dad, making these books something that will last forever. John, for you, what does this mean? I mean, obviously you've been a journalist, you've been writing for a long time, but now you are making stories with your son that is going to stand the test of time.
Ryan, it is, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but it's like a dream come true to be working with my son.
Sure.
I mean, just on this, we're both doing something we love, and we're doing it together. And I mean, like, we text 100 times a day about it, and we talk about it, and it's just something we share. And we've been collecting comics for years. For him, it started probably with the animated series Batman, probably when he was 5 or 6 years old, and us watching that together. And it like chokes me up sometimes when I think about it, to be honest with you. It's just a dream come true, and I couldn't be happier. And I have other kids, and I would love them to write stories for this also, and to get involved. My daughter Jackie, his younger sister, she just sent me about 50 pages of a horror novel she's writing, and it's pretty good. And I edited it for her, and I sent it back to her, and I hope she keeps working on it.
Well, I will say the Space Chimps Comics family horror anthology collection would not be the worst thing to market. It sounds pretty awesome to have just a family of everyone's making a horror short story for a book. Again, idea and the cap, we're good. So now with this Kickstarter, what was one of the things that maybe you were surprised about, maybe an artist getting, or something that you really weren't sure if you could do as an add-on that maybe came later that you're like, oh, right, this is different from our other Kickstarters. I didn't think we could do this, but we're doing it.
Pops, you got anything?
Well, I mean, we've tried to do a little a Tales from the Crypt homage cover. I think we have 2 out of the 4 we've done. Mm-hmm. We'd like to do more of them, and that was sort of a last minute idea. And we had this artist from Brazil, Gilliard, who drew it up, and then Dan found this colorist that it was just fantastic, and it just really pops. And then also Dan had the idea for that for this cover here. I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's it's just a beautiful tarot card of like the devil, and the 2 characters on it are the characters from the story. So it's just fantastic. And that was a pretty late edition. That was his idea, and it just came out fantastic.
Yeah,
Awesome.
the con that we did last year, people really seemed to like the Tales from the Crypt EC homage cover. So we figured, why not try to, double down on that? And that's kind of been a big seller with the Kickstarter also. But yeah, just the merch for this one has been a little different. We're just trying to, come up with some different stuff that we haven't done before. So we just unlocked our first stretch goal last night, actually, which is like a foil Magic the Gathering card, just something that we haven't done before that we figured, if our fans like comic books, they probably like Magic the Gathering also. Let's give them something cool like that. Yeah.
Man, cards, dice set is always one of my favorites, especially if you had little toxic sludge dice, little duck in the middle, little chimp in the middle. Perfect. Man, it just writes itself. It's very, very easy.
I'm thinking a like toxic beer at some point would be fun to.
You could do we got Ecto Cooler. You could bring an Ecto Cooler back. We're all for it.
Slap a label on it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Now for this story, we're 4 issues in. Has anything changed after this fourth issue? Things that maybe you thought, the way I write in this particular style, the way that I arrange my panels, the way that I think about the process itself. Has any of that changed as you have kept on progressing? And obviously, after your first issue, I mean, everyone's first comic, everything changes that second. But by the third or fourth, you start kind of locking into this is my pace, this is my style, this is who I am.
Yeah, I think primarily because we're kind of looking past Tales from Toxic Pond at this point. Not that we're finished with the Toxic Pond itself, but we're the fifth issue is coming up. It's the end of volume 1, and we're looking to kind of expand and create some other titles and some other genres. I know you're working on a fantasy book. I'm working on like a sci-fi noir book. We have some other books that are being worked on as well. So trying to kind of adapt our writing and our styles to fit different genres has been the challenge lately, but it's been fun also.
Yeah, and the challenge for me, Ryan, is that I was really wordy, and I'm trying to be less wordy because the next thing I want is like somebody to open up a page and go, oh my gosh, there's like a trillion words on this page, but and trying to get more input from input from Danny about the panels and what they should show. I mean, I have an idea in my head what they should show, but that's not always always what's good. So he's been able to help with that.
Yeah, that's always hard. And I don't know if I know some people and a lot of indie creators, even some big creators we've talked about, they cannot even make a traditional script. I mean, they have to draw really rough panels, like 4 panels on a page, and then write it out because they just visually, they can't put like 50 lines on one page and be like, yep, nope, I see the story. They have to see it in some sort of physical manifestation to understand it. Has your guys' drafting process or anything like that definitely changed for you?
Yeah, I think my scripts have become less complex. I'm working with an artist right now in this sci-fi story named Hernan Gonzalez. He's this incredible black and white artist from Argentina. And so I'm just kind of letting him go crazy with the story. I'm writing just a basic scene setting for him. And I'm really not even writing dialogue in my scripts anymore. I'm kind of waiting to do the dialogue when I get the pages back from him and I start lettering. So much of the story changes from its inception to the final product that a script is kind of useless at this point, to be honest with you.
And that's really interesting because I'm the exact opposite, Ryan. I sort of need to have the whole story flushed out, written out, and I mean I'm fine with editing it afterwards, but I pretty much I'm just anal that way. I just want, because I'm a writer, for like a paper, so I just like the words have to be there, and then the images come later. So, which is why I have to rely on Dan a lot for that.
Definitely. Now I know we talked about last time with Dan. Obviously, it's you guys doing writing. You're doing what you do best. And we talked about it would be great if you had the rest of your family in. In terms of growing Space Chimp Comics, is it also something you would like to see? Like, maybe we meet some people at MegaCon that come up to our booth. They do like our story, and they're like, hey, I tell a similar story. I haven't found, my way of finding somewhere I could work with, or a mentorship of some sort, of taking some of those rough talents that might be present. You see their portfolio and be like, you know what? Maybe we could give you like 2 pages at the back of the next Tales from the Toxic Pond or our next story, and maybe we'll see how you do and see if we can work with you. Is that something that has been kind of thought about, or you're more you right now you just want to focus on what you've been building?
Well, yeah, it's definitely been. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
No, it's definitely something that I've thought about personally, and I haven't really approached anybody, but I've talked to a couple different people about, maybe writing up a 2 or 4 page backup story, not necessarily for Toxic Pond, but we're doing like a holiday anthology, and maybe having some other people kind of contribute to that collection. But right now at least I'm just kind of focused on us kind of building the brand here. Pops?
For sure.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I don't know if you remember, Dan, but a few months ago, I had sent him this message from an old friend of mine who used to own a comic book store, and he had entered several contests, and he had some stories written. And I was like, maybe it'd be kind of cool to have him, write a story for us and see, But right now, we're just trying to, we still have to get our feet, really firmly planted, I think, before we can do that, as well as we like to.
Definitely. Which brings us to our last question before we wrap things up and give people the information. You guys are kind of the first interview we've done since the whole Diamond thing broke out. And as we know, they just declared bankruptcy. That doesn't mean Diamond's going away. They'll still be there. But obviously their assets and what they can approve and what they can promote is going to diminish. And Diamond did do a really good job, I think, of getting some indie titles out there and giving people a chance. What does this mean for you guys? Because I think one of the biggest things I talked with someone is it's almost empowering that this kind of happened now, because if this happened 10 years ago, you would think the world's breaking. But now you look at and you see, all right, well, Geoff Johns, he made his own company and they do their own stuff. Tiny Youngin, James Tinian, he does his own thing. Do you also maybe feel empowered, like, you know what? It would have been cool to be in Diamond, but maybe this is the push we need to kind of do our own publishing and our own getting our comics out there, and maybe not relying on such a big supplier.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank God for crowdfunding and Kickstarter. We're still able to get our stories out there. We're not in the direct market right now. Maybe eventually we will be. Yeah. We're in the local comic book shop right now. But for sure, it's definitely, it sucks for Diamond, and it's going to be a difficult year for comic book shops. I think a lot of people are anticipating price hikes on books. But thankfully there's crowdfunding, and people are still able to put their books out there. I think with Kickstarter, people are already kind of expecting to pay a little more, maybe premium for a book. Instead of a $4 cover price, you're looking at a $10 to $12 cover price. And people that support indie comics are willing to pay that. So, it's definitely encouraging for sure.
And just to piggyback on that, what's encouraging too, Ryan, is that this is our 4th Kickstarter, I think. Yeah, a 4th. And we've, each one has a lot more backers than the previous, or at least a few more backers than the previous. So it's just growing that way too. So it's just, yeah.
Yeah, no, you guys are definitely on the right track. Like I said, there's very few people that get to volume 1. The amount of, most issues die on page 1 before they even get to a book. The fact that you guys are on volume 4 with, again, the 5th coming down the pipe, that's living the dream for most people. I think every indie creator we've had on this can definitely vouch for it, that is the goal. Doesn't have to have Marvel or Image on the top left-hand corner. It just has to be a book that's out that you're proud of, that's your story. Which is why, again, we're happy to have you here, talk about the story, which leads us into, so what's our timeline for this Kickstarter? Where can people go to the Kickstarter right now? And what do we have available?
Yeah, so I think we have about 16 days left on the campaign. We just hit our minimum funding goal of $1,500 the other day. We're at 50 backers right now, so we're starting to unlock some stretch goals. We have enamel pins and patches and metal bookmarks, the Magic the Gathering cards. You can find our campaign at kickstarter.com. Just search Toxic Pond or Tales from Toxic Pond. issues 1 through 4. The link is on all of our social media: Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky. Our website, spacechimpcomics.com. You can find the link there as well. We have 4 different covers, including foiled covers. We have catch-up tiers, both digital and physical. All types of fun little add-ons, like the tarot card, like the VHS case. It's been a lot of fun. Even if we only had one backer, we would probably still be doing this, to be honest with you. So yeah.
Definitely no. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's for, and that's the best thing about indie comics. Apart from your Marvel or your DC, they're always going to be around. Batman's always going to sell. There's always going to be another villain. Indie stories will always be at our heart and soul because, I mean, that's you guys putting your passion into a story, and that's what we're reading. So we definitely have that. Everyone who's listening that is interested, you can just follow the links. We will have that linked onto the post or wherever you are hearing or seeing this. Follow it, get in on the Kickstarter. You won't be disappointed. And for everyone listening, again, you are going to be at MegaCon, and that table number is
A36.
Yep, A36 in Artist Alley.
Yep.
Perfect. So everyone that's going to be there, go find them. Tell them that we sent you. Again, you won't be disappointed. John, Daniel, thank you guys for coming back on. Part 3 of this interview will obviously be coming to a podcast near you. And we'll have some more stories to talk about. Until then, everyone listening, go follow them, Space Chimp Comics. Give us a follow, Beyond the Cape podcast. Everyone listening, have a good night.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah, thanks.
No
man.
problem.